Hi friends, welcome back. So in this video, I'll be covering few interview questions related to test plan. So I'll be covering around 10 plus interview questions in this video. First question is, what is test plan? It is a test deliverable describing the overall details on how we are going to perform the testing by using a test deliverable. Then what is a test plan? And what is a test strategy? In test strategy, we answer what questions can be, what are the objectives of the given testing project, or what is the scope of the testing project, what is not in scope, or what are the risks. So when we talk about what question, everything should go into a test strategy perspective. When it comes to test planning, then here we talk about more on how questions. How do we do a functional testing? How do we do a non-functional testing? How many test cycle will have? How many scheduling will be there? How many resources will be working on this project? Every details related to how to question will go into a test plan. So this is how we can differentiate between test strategy and a test plan. But in reality, both test strategy and test plan will go together. So what are the key ingredients of a test plan? In a test plan, we will have what are the feature or what are the scope to be tested, what are the features we are not going to test as part of the given project, and what is our approach in terms of delivering or in terms of testing that project, how we are calling a test case is pass or fail, what is our suspension criteria or assumption criteria, what are the various test deliverable we will be delivering as part of that given testing project, what are the various environmental things will be required to be testing that project, what are the different roles and responsibilities will be required to perform that or executing that testing project, what kind of stopping and what kind of trainings are required, everything will be documenting in a given test plan. We will also be giving a complete overall schedule for a given testing project, and we'll be defining entry and exit criteria. Plus we'll also be talking about what are the risk and contingency will have to be planned for a given this testing project. So all this information will go into a test plan. Who defines the environment setup for a testing project? Either test manager or a test lead defines the overall environment requirement, or based on the architecture defined or based on the requirements defined. This either test manager or lead will be defining the overall testing environment requirement for that testing project. What are the different factors will be considered while performing estimation in test planning is, we'll be considering the overall scope of the project, how much time is required, how many resources are required. So basically that is all about effort. So these are the three important critical factors we will be normally considering while considering an estimation. Who writes the test plan? Either again test manager or a test lead. Who is the senior person in a given team who will be writing this test plan by working with various stakeholders? It could be project manager, it could be product owner or scrum master, development team. You will be working with all the relevant stakeholders and it drops the test plan. So once the test plan is drafted, it will get reviewed. Who will approve the test plan? So will be same document will get it reviewed from the test manager, it will be get reviewed from project manager and product owner. So based on their feedback, again the test planning will be fine-tuned, and finally if everybody agrees, then test plan will get approved. Then what is the entry criteria in a given test plan? So entry criteria in a given test plan is nothing but there is a criteria which will be listed by discussing with the various stakeholders. As a testing person or as a gatekeeper, your job is to ensure that whatever the criteria we define in the test plan that required to be met before we starting the testing. That is all about a entry criteria. So what is all about a exit criteria? So what is all about exit criteria? This is a final call. This is the final call we'll be taking when we are trying to sign up the given testing project. That is where we will be validating all the exit criteria which are defined for that project. So we'll be going through every criteria to see everything is working or not. So based on that, if everything is working, every criteria has been met, then we'll be signing up that project from the testing team perspective. That is all about exit criteria in a given test plan. Can you name some of the test deliverables for a given testing projects? The test deliverables can be your test plan strategy, your test case documents, test scenario documents, and test execution logs and records. And we'll have a requirement traceability metrics, review documents, test reports, and test closure. So these are some of the key test deliverables from the testing project. So what is all about a master test plan? So what is all about a master test plan? So master test plan is nothing but it is a high level test plan. If the project is very big enough, maybe the project is having 200 people, 500 people team, very big team where multiple teams will be involved in developing or implementing that project, where not only we'll have a functional testing, we'll also have a non-functional testing. We have third-party people will be testing it. Different people will be working in a different components or altogether a different project. Everything that requires to be merged together later. So each team will come up with the test plan, but entire test plan is getting merged or will be defining in a master test plan. For example, even performance testing will be covered in a different test plan altogether. Automation testing will be covered in a different test plan altogether. UAT testing will be done by different teams. That team will be defining a UAT test plan. Similarly, we have a security testing. Again, that test plan will be defined by the security team and so on. Because each team is responsible for certain aspects. Because of that, as a test lead, you will be defining the overall master test plan, but each detailed test plan will be provided by the individual teams in that team. What are the criteria which you use to define a risk in your test plan? In order to identify or define a risk, so you should have a team meeting or with the testing team members or development members just to see what are the risks we may anticipate based on our previous experience, based on our overall experience in different projects, and we will be trying to anticipate what are the different risks might pop up while executing the project. So we will be listing out every risk which may anticipate on various different topics. Could be any challenges will be there in the timelines, any challenges in the requirements, any challenges related to resourcing or unavailability of resources, or any challenges in the infrastructure issues or infrastructure challenges. Maybe some of the devices are not available, some of the operating systems are not available, some of the mobile devices are not available. How to handle that kind of risk? And for each risk, whatever we are going to define, each risk will have to go with a mitigation plan, where we have to clearly define who is the key contact points to resolve those risks if those anticipated risks really occurs while we are executing the project. So all those risk plus mitigations will have to clearly define in this way. Can you give some example when you suspend the testing? That is where the suspension criteria will come into picture, where we will be clearly defining when there is a dependency on some external factors. If there is a dependency on external factors which are not available, such as third-party software or certain fixes required from the third-party organization. If something is not coming on time, we will have to stop our testing for a certain time. And also, if we found any serious issues or serious defects in a given build, that time also we will be stopping our testing until we get those fixes so that we can proceed further. Third situation is when completely whatever the build has been created is completely failing to deploy. That is also a situation where we will be suspending our testing. So what will you do when certain devices are not available for testing, which is really planned in your test plan? The situation happens here, there is a risk on the availability of the device. Basically, what is the mitigation plan here is we will be escalating the issues with the relevant stakeholders, relevant vendor to get those devices as early as possible, and we will be keep those tests under queue so that until we are not going to test those test cases associated with those devices, we are not going to certify those test cases relevant to that given device or relevant to that platform. That is how we will be tackling the situation. How will you define the overall scope of the projects in a test plan? So how will you basically define the scope of the projects in the test plan? We will be defining the scope of the projects by answering the question, what is basically the key objective? What is the success of that project? When we know what is the key objective of the testing project or key success of the testing project, definitely we can come out with a very strong scope of that testing project. Plus, what are the outcome of this project? in both functional and non-functional perspective, from the client requirement perspective, from different stakeholder perspective. By considering all those informations, we will be defining the overall scope of the testing project in the given testing plan.